Okay, so I am in the same project as I created in the last video, but this time I'm going to read the data back into the program from the file. So just a reminder, in the last video I created this file. We wrote this data to a file called myfirstfile.txt. I saved the same project, but I got rid of that original code to write the data to the file. So now this code is going to read the data back in from the file. I mentioned this in the last video. Online GDB is very annoying with this technique and the whole file thing. This would not be as annoying if we were just working on our desktop and, opening the files in Notepad or something like that. But, I don't want to change horses in midstream, especially so close to the end of the semester. So we'll just live with this. But let's look at the code. So I mentioned in the last video that I like that with statement because that'll close up your file after you're done with it. And here's a technique for reading the file. I'll throw in a few of them in this technique. In this video, there are multiple techniques to read data from a file, but this is kind of an easy one. We're going to open that file name or that file. Be careful with the name. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be exactly what the file is named. And then this time we're opening it for read. Okay, so that's why we have an R there. And then so this will allow us to just read all the contents in one shot. Okay, we've got a couple of lines of data in this file. We have 2 lines of data, in fact. So just a plain read there is just going to read it all in one shot and print it out. Okay, and that's what it did. When I ran this, it read it in and it printed the contents. It even read in the line break. Like that line break is also stored in the file. So there's my output there. So let me show you another way. Okay, another way, and especially if you have a lot of data in a file, you can loop through the file line by line. Like some files have a lot of lines of data. Okay, especially if you're like exporting from an Excel spreadsheet or something, or a database, you might have many lines of data, and you, for whatever reason, want to loop through those lines of data one at a time. So that's fairly easy to do. Again, I like the with construct. We'll open up that file for read, and then here we'll use a for loop. So we'll say for each loop, it's a for each loop basically. For each line in that file, we're going to print that line. And then, let me see why I overrode that end key. Let's see what we get. I think I'm going to comment this out so we can take a look at that output. Oh, okay, yeah. So I mentioned when I ran this the last time that this line feed between the hello there and the goodbye is saved in the file. We can't see it, but it is saved. So then when I'm looping through one line at a time, the print also has an implicit line feed. So I got 2 line feeds between the 2 of them. I mean, obviously not the end of the world, but you would have to override that line feed, and we know how to do that by saying end equals this. Okay. And there it is. Okay, I have one more way to read data from a file. If we wanted to put the data into a list for whatever reason, let me comment this out. Okay, so we've got 2 lines of data in there. And let's say I want to read that data into a list. Okay, so once again, we'll use the with construct, get the file name correct. We're going to create a list called LST contents, and I'm going to use this read lines method, read lines. Okay, and that will read the various lines of data. Obviously there are only 2 lines of data, but those 2 lines will be read into the program and they will be placed in a list. And then we can process those contents just like we would any other list, like we were doing a couple of weeks ago or whenever we were talking about lists. So you can, I just did a quick print, kind of this quick and dirty way of printing a list, and this is how the list comes out. Okay, you can see the new line in there. But a better way of looping through a list or iterating over a list, as your book likes to say, is loop through that list. And then, here I used a range variable, and we'll just, use loop counter I to reference each element in that list as we're looping through. So you can see we have better, more polished output when we loop through the list.